Hi, everyone, and welcome to Truth Camp. I'm your host, Crystal Giznichek, with my co-host and wife, Sarah. We believe that there is something you can learn from everyone and want to help share these truths to help inspire and motivate. Thank you for spending time with us today. Now let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Truth Camp. I'm here with my wife, Sarah, and Butter Biscuits again. And then we have a special guest today, behind the camera guy.
Behind the camera guy.
Dave Hammer's here.
Weirdly, I'm known as that in many circles.
Now everyone is like, who's the person that talks in the background? We don't know who they are.
Well,
like,
I get so many
Me
people
too.
love Dave. They
Yes.
love you. They love when you make little comments and stuff. So I thought it would be a great way to start season 2, kind of get to know you a little bit better. And since we've never, you just interject here and there.
Yeah. Just my 2 cents. I do appreciate the love, though. Thanks.
very important interjections.
Yes.
Also, I like that we both are going to have our nice coffee, sneezy, nasally voices.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
The cough just will not completely go away.
Yeah, these two have been sick, corresponding at the same time.
It's
Yeah.
been like 4 weeks now.
Oh, yeah. It's really,
Shit.
we've planned to do this so many times.
Yeah, we've tried to record this episode, about at least 3 times, maybe more.
It was at least a month ago. I made a post on my social media about it. And then I got sick, but Sarah was sick at the same time. And then literally for last week, you messaged me and you said that, hey, Sarah's sick again. I don't know if we're going to do it. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I'm sick.
Yeah, that's what she looks at. I'm like, I'm just really...
And I felt
I
so
can't do
bad
this.
because it was like an hour before we were about to record. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh.
And I'm just dying, and then, she texts you, and you weren't feeling good, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, my text probably even almost seemed excited because I was gonna fight through. Because I was like, we've postponed this way too many times, so I'm just gonna fight through and I'm gonna do it. And then I got that text like, oh my, thank God.
It made me feel so much better that you were like, I'm sick too. I'm like, yay.
I was like putting exclamation points at the end, like, yeah.
So happy, and then she's like, would you want to shoot for the next day? And then something else happened. I'm like, no, just let this go. And then today, I felt like shit earlier today.
Oh,
Just
really?
your allergies.
Oh, my allergies, they're so bad. And I was like, I gotta just lay down. And she was like, yeah, because we have to record this episode. And
It's gonna be 2 years
Take
later.
a nap.
yeah.
2 years later, like season 2 of Truth Camp, here we are.
This episode, we can't move on until we do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're fine. I don't know what these allergies have done to us. These
I don't
sicknesses have done
even
to us.
have allergies.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
I've
usually
never-
don't either.
I've never had allergies in my life. Never suffered from them. I'm fine.
I'm usually
great.
the one that's miserable with allergies.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm fine. I don't know what's wrong.
I'm usually the epitome of health. I mean, my body's a temple. I just take great care of
They burn
everything.
incense in the temples. This is your incense. It's perfectly fine. I think that's acceptable.
Dave's like, let's get started.
Let's get started. I need a bourbon, but I can't right now.
Yeah, well, this is a perfect segue into, and I'll just bring this back up. You've been doing the 75 hard. Do you usually do it once? I mean, I have no concept of time, so 75 days to me could feel like 120 or 14, but it's like
you could have said you've done it
you've
5
said it
times.
5 I'd be like, you're right, but like I said, I mentioned to you earlier, and it's gonna bother me because I really wish I could remember who said it. They're like, if I fucking see Dave Hammer post one more time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the fucking point. That's what you do.
So first, what is 75 hard?
So the 75 hard is the first thing is 2 45-minute workouts a day. One has to be outside. They can both be outside, but one has to be. So it doesn't matter what the weather is. So I ran in the rain, which I actually love. I think I'll do more often. And then also,
Can they be back to back? If you just do a real long hike or something?
Mm-hmm.
So just as long
Yeah.
as you get that time in a day.
It's the time. That's
Okay.
exactly what it is. Because Andy Frisella, or I don't really know how to pronounce his last name, but he's the one who came up with the challenge, and he even says that it's more of a mental thing to create discipline than it is a physical thing. So he doesn't care if both of your exercises are just going for a walk. He says just fucking do something.
Do something.
Yeah, and then the other parts are drink a gallon of water a day.
That can be tough, even.
Oh,
getting
man.
a gallon.
There were times where I literally was drinking like a half gallon of water like right before I went to bed.
And were you peeing all night?
Yeah, of course, but can't fail. So, but so the 2 workouts a day, drink a gallon of water, then you pick a diet and stick to it. But you pick the diet. So, like, if you decided it was going to be, I'm going to eat nothing but Reese's cups, that could be it. Not recommended, but that could be it. No cheat days. Then read 10 pages a day. It's supposed to be nonfiction, which I did do nonfiction, but I told people that nobody reads enough now anyway. So anybody who's doing the challenge with me, I'm like, just read something.
Yeah.
You know. And then the last thing, no alcohol for 75 days, which for those of you that don't know me, that was a challenge. There's actually,
you could see behind the table, there's
Yeah.
a couple whiskey bottles.
yeah, I am a bourbon collector. I do a bourbon podcast. I have about 100 bottles of bourbon underneath there.
that have not been touched.
Yeah, I swear I didn't cheat. I truthfully wasn't even really tempted to. So maybe for the first 2 weeks, but then after that.
So I was asking you before the podcast, how, like, was it a struggle at all since you drank so often, like, to stop that?
Yeah, so the first 2 weeks, it was weird because I had my habits, which is actually the whole purpose of this challenge, is to break your habits, right? So my habits were, if I didn't have anything going on, didn't have a family obligation, didn't have something I had to do after work, I'd come home and I either watch something and, have a beer or a bourbon, or if I was really getting after it, then I might play Madden and watch some fantasy football podcast because I have a problem, and just like drink for a couple of hours. So initially it was like, okay, what do I do with myself now? Which the workouts ended up helping with that. But
I was gonna say, so what did kind of fill up your time whenever you, like, did you create new habits that you feel like worked for you?
Yeah, well, one, I learned how to play Madden without drinking. But
Still
we got a lot better.
but no, what actually really helped is when I started doing this, and I started posting on social media all the time just to keep myself accountable. Right, that was really my main purpose. Like, if I'm telling everybody I'm doing this, then I have to do it.
Yeah, I get the same way with stuff. If I know I, like, really want to do something, I have to, like, just put it out there, and it keeps me accountable too.
So, and something I didn't expect was I got a lot of people that started to reach out to me. So for the first, 30 to 40 days, I was doing a lot more than 2 workouts a day, because I had people who wanted to run with me, wanted to work out with me. So I was doing more like 3, 4, 5 workouts a day.
And that was awesome to see on your social, like, the people that kind of joined in.
Yeah.
Like
And,
a group.
pretty much everybody fell out. But, I mean, it's a challenge. That's the whole thing. It's hard. And even the stats on it are like 1% of the people who attempt 75 hard actually accomplish it. And I'm still not there. Monday, here we go.
Almost there.
Yeah, to tomorrow. I just got to get through tonight and tomorrow. So
That's awesome.
So as long as I don't crack open a bourbon while we're doing this podcast, I should be good. But so that helped occupy a lot of that time, and it was awesome. It actually even made me think about possibly looking into personal training and nutrition and things like that, because my transformation was pretty quick. But what I realized through that is it's all about mindset. Your fitness goals or any goals you have is all going to be about your mindset. You have to be willing to sacrifice. If you're not going to sacrifice, if you're not willing to sacrifice for it, then it's not important to you, and you're not going to reach your goals. I think a lot of times when people go to these gyms and spend all these money on these expensive gyms, it's not necessarily the coach's fault if they don't get the results that they want. It's not necessarily the person's fault. It's that they were focused on the wrong things. They were focused on, okay, you're going to do this workout plan. You're going to eat this.
Like too specific.
One, too specific because everybody reacts different to different things. But also the thing you have to focus on if somebody really wants to make a transformation is their mind. You've got to focus on their mindset. If you're not focused on their mindset, then nothing is going to actually work. Because if you don't have the right mindset, you're gonna cheat. You're going to skip. You're
Make excuses.
You're gonna make excuses. Like, oh well, I'm too busy. I had this long day. I just worked 12 hours, so I'm not gonna get this workout in. Or I didn't have time at lunch, so I ended up getting fast food
and that's like one slip I see with people. Then it seems like it just like throws it all off for a lot.
Yeah, that's usually how it happens. Even for me, I've never been in this good of shape, but I've been in decent shape multiple times in my life after I've been fat in shape. The heaviest I ever was 250 pounds, and I had to take breaks in between tying my shoes, But that's what would happen is I would have like 1 week where I was like, I got too much going on. I'm not going to the gym. I'm eating trash. And then it's just hard to get back into the healthy cycle. Yeah. And so you just stay in the bad cycle.
How do you feel about like finding, or do you think you'll be able to find balance after this? Like, or is this something that you're going to look at like adopting like a new way of life? How do you prepare to go forward from here?
Yeah, so my life is definitely going to be different. I'm not saying I'm never going to drink again. I'm not saying I'm never going to get drunk again. I am saying that it won't ever be like it was. Part of my problem, actually probably my biggest problem with drinking, is I actually truly love the taste of bourbon. So like it's one of my favorite things flavor wise. And same thing with like good craft beers. It's one of my favorite things flavor wise. Like I'd rather have that than like your favorite Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? But now after being sober for so long, I recognize how much better I feel and how much of a detriment my habits caused me. So now I'll be much more responsible with it. If I do drink, it'll probably just be like a bourbon and 2 beers, or maybe if it's a special occasion, I do get drunk, but I'll be mentally prepared to deal with that because my mindset is different.
Yeah, like drinking with a different purpose. Like your purpose is not to get annihilated and get fucked up.
Yeah.
Your purpose is like, I want to enjoy what I'm drinking and, socially have a little fun, whatever, but like there's a limit.
Yeah, there's a limit. And then also just making sure I stick with the fitness too. Because at this point, I'm 40 years old. How many more times can I put my body through this transformation? And especially like with where I'm at now, like I've never had a 6-pack in my life, and now I have a 6-pack after 75 days,
So do you think you're going to try to stick with like doing a little bit every day like you have been, or like are you going to just try?
I will 100% work out every day. I will still try to do 2-a-days, but I'm not going to make 2-a-days a focus.
Okay. You
know what I mean? Like if I have the time, like instead of coming home and playing Madden, my porch is actually nothing but workout equipment.
Yeah.
which is probably quite a difference from when you guys used to come here, right?
Yeah, like we pulled
there used to just be a bunch of trash out
I'm like,
here.
what is that? I'm like, man, like he must be doing workouts on the porch.
Seeing me, I just look at him like, oh, that looks like fun.
Yeah, I mean, like gets on the kettlebell. She's like, this is nice.
Isn't that kettlebell awesome?
That is sweet.
That's
It's with the chimpanzee.
It's a chimpanzee from On It Labs, Aubrey Marcus's company. But what's funny is the other piece of equipment out there, the big thing, I don't know what those are called, that has the pull-ups and the dips.
And you can do push-ups and everything.
So I was doing lots of workouts out in my front yard, and one of the neighbors was like, hey man, we got this workout equipment. We see you working out all the time. We don't use it. Do you want it? And I'm like,
oh, that's cool.
I'm like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Free equipment, bring it over.
And trust me, for whoever was complaining about me posting about my stuff on social media, my neighbors probably hate me if that's the case. Like, this dude's always naked on his porch exercising.
No, because I kind of think like what it is, because I just kind of think it's like maybe it's that like mirror thing. Like you're seeing what someone else is doing, and like I don't know where that, like I don't know if it's like jealousy or like where that annoyance comes from, but like I could see it because I'm sure there's been times in my, like, you see someone post their weight loss progression or something like that, and you're like, why does this person feel the need to put this on there? But
because it's triggering. I think it's like with people and like their accountability, they have problems themselves, so like,
but that
seeing
does
it in their face
make sense, because I know, like, for me, if I was like, well, I'm gonna do this, and like if I post it and I don't complete it, like, I'm gonna feel like a piece of shit,
right?
Like, everyone just knew that you started this and knew that you failed, watched you fail.
Yeah.
And that's the full commitment is like, I'm posting it, and then I have to be accountable every single day, and people, whether they're doing it or not, like whether they like you or not, they're seeing it, so you have to follow it through.
Yeah.
So, was there any reason why in particular you decided to do this?
Well, I mean, you guys know some of the story. We don't have to get into all that because, this isn't a call people out podcast. But I went through.
I mean, it can be. I would love for it to be.
You're always down for that.
Yeah.
If you learned anything from season 1 of Truth Camp.
I love some tea. We love a takedown story.
But I went through, kind of a shitty relationship and an even shittier end. And I was in a dark place. The dark place had more to do with myself and not understanding how things could have gone that direction. And for probably about a week, I went back into my old habits where I drank like all the time. And then I was sitting there, I'm like, God, I went to a bar for the first time in forever. And actually, I was sitting at that bar and listening to everybody around. I was like, I don't belong here. Like, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. Like, this just isn't who I am. And I'm not sure it ever was. I think I was just, I don't know, escaping or whatever. But so then I started just going to the gym. I'm like, just get back into working out. You always feel better when you work out. So just get back into it. So I started doing that. And then my buddy who owns Easy Fresh Nutrition, Draws, he actually reached out to me and said, hey, I really want to do this 75 hard challenge. I've been seeing some of your stuff that you've been posting. Do you want to do this with me? And now, granted, this is at like the beginning of the summer, obviously. Mm-hmm. My birthday's in July. And I was like, God, I wonder if he can like wait till after my birthday.
I really want to get fucked up on my birthday.
Right. No, legitimately, that's what was going through my head. Like, I'm not going to drink on my birthday. Get real. And then I sat with it for like a day, and I was like, there's always going to be an excuse. And I've always told myself that nothing has a hold of me, that nothing controls me, and that I am capable of doing whatever. So I was like, no, like you're going to do this. You're not going to drink for the entire summer. You're not going to drink on your birthday. I went on kind of a date that night, and then that was the last time I drank, because I didn't want to go on that date and be like, sorry, I'm a weirdo and I'm doing this challenge.
Yeah, just today I just decided that I'm not drinking anymore, just hours before this.
Even though I knew me and you were going to drink together, so hope this isn't awkward.
I'm sober, like 6 hours sober.
But so I did it, and then for a little while we had this whole group of people, and like we were really supporting each other in these group texts, and I was probably the only one like really posting on social media about it. But we had this group, and then slowly, some not so slowly, they started to fall off or fail, but most of them would fail and then start over, because that's the whole thing, you just start over. And they kept trying, and slowly everybody started to fall out. I can't remember what the question was at this point.
How you started?
So he asked me to do it, and I decided, yeah, let's fucking go for it. And that's when I started posting really heavy. But yeah, that's how it came about. And I just felt like I needed something. I needed something to bring me out. Like, the gym was helping, but it still wasn't quite enough. I wasn't inspiring myself enough to truly change my habits and change all my broken shit, I guess.
I would see you guys, I would be leaving work like 9:30, and I'd see you guys running.
Yeah.
Like, rain. Like, I remember seeing you guys. I didn't know it was you at first because you had lost so much weight.
Yeah.
Like, fast.
Yeah, super
and
fast.
I didn't know that it was you And then I just remember seeing, I was like, God damn, they're fucking crazy. They're in the rain. I was like, these white people are wild. And then
white people doing white people shit.
White people. Like, and then I saw Drazen running one day, and it was you, female, and
Jess
Drazen.
Shivers.
And I was watching you guys run, and I was like, son of a bitch. I was like, that's Dave. I was like, God damn. I was like, look at him go, fucking running on Sunset. Like, son of a bitch. So, yeah, I would see you guys. And then I don't get on Facebook that often at all, but I did see, you were probably like about a month in where, like, you would be like, oh, like, so-and-so. Like, I just remember one post in particular, like, they messaged us. They were really struggling. Like, we showed up. You guys just, like, popped up at the gym. And we're like, we're here. Like, you know, we're going to help you get through this workout. Like,
yeah, that was actually Jess. She was having a hard time. She was having a hard time with her time management, and still does. I mean, she's a single mom. She has 3 kids. She works now. She works 2 jobs because she also works with me at the club now too. And she was just having a hard time with time management. So she was basically trying to accomplish all of her goals at the end of the day.
Ooh.
So both workouts, get your water in, read your pages, all of it, and it's just not really feasible. You got to get up in the morning, and she thinks a lot of it has to do with the fact that she has insomnia. I try to tell her that the insomnia is created by you doing too much before you're trying to go to bed. Maybe not, but to me that makes sense. You're raising your heart rate with 2 workouts right before you're going home and trying to go to bed.
It is hard to just like settle right down and go to bed after that.
And I'm sure she's probably like was anxious before that. Like, fuck, it's 9:00 at night. I got to get a gallon of water in. I got to do 90 minutes of a workout. Like, and then like I'm on a time crunch because I got kids and I got to work the next day. Like, that would be enough to like stress anybody out.
So the first couple times it happened, and that time in particular where we posted about it, she messaged in the group chat, and I just immediately called her. And I said, all right, come on. You have the membership to Rocky Road. We're going to Rocky Road. Let's go. Shout out to Ryan Darrow at Rocky Road for allowing me to go there, even though I wasn't a member, because he knew I was helping somebody that was a member. So
Ryan's good like that, too.
Yeah, I actually really like Ryan a lot. I don't know him that well, but everything I've heard of him, the few conversations I've had with him from our mutual experience, just seems like a really good guy.
Yeah, he really wants to help people better themselves,
for
sure.
Yeah. So I told her, I said, all right, pack up the kids, because she can't leave them all, and they actually like going to the gym too. So I said, pack up the kids. I'm meeting you over there. And we did a workout inside, me, her, and I helped her kids with some stuff too. And then afterwards, we grabbed some sandbags from in there and just were walking around the building for the second 45. And then, like, every time we would stop and take a break, because she would just leave her water jug somewhere, I'd go pick it up. I'd go pick it up and bring it to her, like, come on, you know. And then she hadn't quite finished it. And when she got in the car, I told her kids, I said, hey, you're responsible for making sure she finishes her water. All right. And now one of her kids works for me, too. So
That's awesome.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I've always been somebody who enjoys helping people, and this actually gave me a very specific way to help people. You know, it got harder when I got sick, so I fell out of helping people because at that point I was just trying to get myself through it.
Almost,
And then afterwards, I lost some of that contact, so it was harder to keep up with it, and then, you know, work out crazy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm so far deep into this that I need to make sure I finish it. Because I mean, so like you were talking about people being upset about my posting. Well, because I think a lot of times what people think is like, yeah, but you know, so what? This guy doesn't have kids. He's got, you know, just a job cooking. Like, so what of course he has time for this, but I'm working 12-hour days, going to the gym before and then working out afterwards, getting my pages in. So it's not like it was an easy thing for me as well, but I think that's what a lot of that is. People like look at your life and they're like, well, you have this free time. So.
Yeah.
But also like bold of you to assume like just because someone doesn't have kids, like I don't have kids, and I'm not trying to be a dick when I say this, but like your fucking kids aren't an excuse why you can't do things. Like,
no.
Kids nap, they go to school, you have co-parenting capabilities.
I think it's just the excuses thing in general. Like if you aren't committed, you can find an excuse.
I get
no
hi.
matter.
Have you met me? I'm the queen of procrastination. mention excuses, I will fucking think of one like that.
You don't usually
but...
make excuses for yourself, though.
No, I just now I don't make excuses. I'm just like, I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's easy to say. But you have a life. You have kids. You have dogs. Those are your kids.
Oh man, I got 3 dogs in a tiny ass house.
Yeah, like that's. Okay.
This is the whole house right here, guys. The bed's actually over there. The camera right now is on top of the bed.
There's a cot over there.
Yeah, there's a cot. I just lay a piece of wood down and I use it as a
just
desk.
Tie the dogs outside, just for the time being on the front porch.
I let them play with the coyotes when we're doing podcasts. True story. Ghost actually got pregnant by a coyote. I'm pretty sure before she got fixed.
What?
Are
I'm
you
like,
serious?
what? Oh no, that can happen.
Yeah.
That's a.
Well, because in my old house, where the nice house, pre-COVID house, I lived by the woods, so I would just let them go. And sometimes Ghost would be gone for a while. And then she came back, and finally they set up my appointment to get her fixed. And so I took her over there. And
Puppy mishmortion.
they called me, and they were like, hey, just so you know, she was pregnant. We took care of it. And I'm like, hold on. What do you mean?
Wait a minute.
I got like a defensive dad
Yeah,
at the time. I'm like, who told you that was okay? Like, what if I wanted those dogs?
What happened to it being like, freedom of choice?
Right. What kind of bullshit is this?
Did you let her know?
I don't know. I don't.
Did she even know you?
Yeah. Did you wake her up and ask her permission? I don't really know if I like your moral compass right now. So, and then my favorite was when I showed up to pick her up. I was like, yeah, I'm here for the whore.
Were they just like?
Oh yeah, yeah. They didn't laugh. They didn't do anything. They just shocked. Like, what is he talking about? And I'm like, the dog with the pregnant, probably coyotes. I don't know. Just give me my dog.
Yeah, like okay. If you guys don't have a sense of humor.
They were shocked.
Thanks.
I feel bad because who knows the scenario she got herself into with a bunch of wild coyotes, you know?
Oh, they would have been cute. Look at me. I'm like, it's okay. Like, puppy schmishmortions are not okay.
You've always been a big animal person too, right?
Yeah. Actually, I ended up with a 3rd dog just because my ex decided to get a dog and it didn't work cohesively. The dog was supposed to come here for a week. She'd had him for like 2 weeks, and the dog was supposed to come here for a week for a break. And then she was like, no, I just can't have him. I don't know. I think maybe I'm going to have to take him back. And I was like, no, he lives here now. So I'll tell you what, that was something that was hard at first.
Yeah,
because like my attachment to this dog initially was because of this person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when I saw the dog, I'm like, fuck. I mean, cool dog, love the dog, sweetheart. But it was just like, Jesus Christ, like
a constant reminder, right?
Yeah,
there.
yeah, constant reminder. And so like there was a time where I was like, hey, see if you can find. I'm not sending him back to the pound, or what shelter or whatever, but see if you can find somebody. And then who knows if she ever even tried, but then eventually she said, hey, do you still want me to? And I was like, no, like this is his home. He's happy here. He likes it here. So 3 dogs in a studio apartment, basically. But it's their house. I mean, look at the couch. That's definitely.
Well, that's how. I feel like if you have animals, that's like how it should. I just feel like you're a psychopath if you have animals. You're like, they're not allowed on the couch. They can't walk in this room. They can't do that. Like, that's fucking weird.
And especially, I'm gone a lot because of work and the other things. So like I'm not going to get upset at them if they chewed on the couch, and I'm not going to just lock them in a kennel for all that amount of time. It's just something that I have to deal with, and for me, it's still better than them being at a shelter.
Yeah.
You know, like they have the 3 of them here. They all get along. The neighbors love them because they love everything. Ghost caught a rabbit the other day, nuzzled it for a little while, and then let it about its merry way.
Oh, that's great. Wait, are you talking about your neighbors directly across the street?
They're hit or miss with it, but they love the older people over here, and the older people love them now too. Like at first, I think they were scared because their dog would come out. And Ghost, they all stay in the yard. I don't put them on leashes or anything, but Ghost, when she sees that dog out there, she can't help herself, so she just rushes over there. But now they're always like, oh, hey, Ghost, it's so good to see you. But yeah, so I definitely do have a lot of love for animals. I'm not a cat person, and for a while I had 3 cats just because like people kept bringing me cats. Like, I don't even like them, but yeah.
Like, sure, sure, we'll take a cat.
Yeah.
So, Dave, tell us a little bit about your growing up, because I don't know a lot, I guess, about your background history. And I was kind of interested. You gave me a couple little highlights, and I was kind of interested in
All right, buckle up,
knowing a
everybody.
little. Relight a cigarette.
Yeah. So,
Our story starts in one
which one's my
state
camera? Is
to
that my
another,
camera?
to another.
So I was born in California to Jim and Tammy Hammer. But so my mom got pregnant young with me. My parents met in California. Oddly enough, my mom's from this area. My dad is from southern Missouri, northern Arkansas area, but they met in California. My dad grew up in California pretty much.
Or where are you at in order of siblings?
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
Well, out of the what's the word, immediate siblings, I have an older half brother, and then oddly enough, there's a half sister in between us.
Surprise.
It wasn't a cheating thing. So before they got married, after my mom got pregnant, I'm pretty sure that's the order of events. I'm pretty sure she got pregnant, then they got married. But then before I could remember anything, they got divorced. So my first memories of my family life were spending time with my mom, who was young and self-admittingly a little reckless back then. Not a bad person by any means, just she was young and had a kid early by surprise. And my dad was 18 years older than my mom, so obviously at a very different stage of his life. So I spent most of the time with my dad and some time with my mom. But yeah, so they were divorced. And then my dad worked for a company called Wilson Trophy Company, and he ran the West Coast stores, and we moved around all the time. So
I saw the list of all the places you were too.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I ever spent more than a year in the same school until we moved to St. Louis, which was in 5th grade.
Man.
And then there.
Do you remember when you were younger? Did you actually enjoy, or did you have any stress around moving?
Oh, we lived in California, and kids grow up in way harsher environments in California at a much earlier age. So you have, they're like fake gangs, but they're emulating what they know from their regular lives outside of school. I fought all the time, all the time. The one school I want to say was Garfield. The first friend I made was this kid named Matt, and unbeknownst to me, he was the kid that everybody picked on at recess. So for the first, this is obviously a total guess because it was so long ago, but we'll say the first month. So for the first month, because I'd already decided this guy was my friend, and that's the kind of person I was from a young age. Now I'm loyal to this kid, even though it's been 3 hours. So I didn't realize that he got beat up by this group of 10 kids every recess, and there were so many kids at recess. So the recess area at this school had 5 baseball fields, 3 soccer fields,
wow,
the playground areas, so the teachers couldn't watch
these
it.
are humongous schools, humongous populations. This is not
what we're used to
around
around
here.
here. So so for the first little while, my life at that school was sprinting. Luckily I was very fast, but I had to make sure I kept Matt with me, who was not very fast or athletic in any way. And so when he would fall behind, I would have to turn around, and I would literally hit a couple of people and then grab him, and then we'd run. And this was recess. This is what we did. Eventually, the kid who was the leader of that group, his name was Corey, and we ended up becoming friends because eventually they were we're not fucking with that guy anymore. He just punches us in the face all the time. And actually, funnily enough, Corey eventually got picked on by a kid in his group. Like, it was like a much bigger black kid. And he was like, hey, you think you could deal with this for me? And I was like, why? He was like, well, he's just picking on us. And it didn't even click in my head that's what you do, man. You pick on people. It was just like, now me and this kid have formed a bond, and now I feel bad that he's being picked on.
So clearly we're seeing the pattern develop at a young age that you are this charismatic protector of your people.
Yeah, I guess. I had one psychiatrist tell me it was a superhero complex at one point, I think. Or no, just a hero, not superhero. See, that's... But so... That kid, I was like, okay, yeah, we'll deal with this. And he was on like the wall ball court with like the big bouncy balls. So I had one in my hand. I was like, hey, I'm up. And he was like, okay. And then I tossed the ball to him. And when he caught it, I just hit him right in his face as hard as I could. And then nobody messed with anybody anymore, it seemed like.
Like, all right, we're cool. So essentially, California public schools are ganglands.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like it's not like true gangs. It's just people emulating what they knew from their personal life.
Like, stick with your group. Be with your group. Like, we don't like those people. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Probably my favorite story from that same school, though, I was really good friends with these girls. The one girl's name was Jen, and me and her we could both have a really hot head. So we're like screaming at each other on the soccer field one time about this thing, and she was a violent person. I know I just talked about punch people in the face, but that was out of...
She's really violent.
But I wasn't like hitting my friends. She would hit her friends. And, most of the time I was like trying to help somebody or whatever. But she had said, I would punch you in the balls if you had any, and then punched me in the balls. And so this time the teachers actually saw us. And so we got sent to the principal's office, like a group of 4 of us. Now, yeah, we fought, but we were all really close friends. So by the time the principal came in, we are crying laughing and cannot stop. And the principal's like, you guys know you're in trouble, right? We're not responding at all, just still crying laughing. He got so frustrated, he just told us to go back to class. I mean, I literally fell out of my chair at one point. I was laughing so hard. He's like, what's so funny? I was like, if I had any. But so we moved all around California. Actually, probably one of the scariest points of my life, real quick, before we get out of California, was there. Me and my dad lived in a complex. I don't know if that's really the right word. It seemed like a really nice place at the time. Now I have questions about it. But it was like...
Isn't that weird when you're younger?
Yeah.
This thing's really cool.
Yeah. But it was gated, and we just had free reign. Like the kids, like you guys might remember some of it too. I think I'm a little bit older than you guys, but like back in the day, man, kids, we just ran around the fucking neighborhood.
Oh yeah, come home when the lights are turned on, like when the street lights turn on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, good luck.
Well, this place was still building, so there were construction sites and like foundation holes. And so they would fill up with water. And my dumbass, I didn't know how to swim at the time. And I was with my friend Richard and Myron, and we were like jumping over these things. And I fell in, and I didn't know how to swim. There were no adults around, and I was in pure panic mode. I mean, I couldn't grab onto the side because it was mud.
Did they know you couldn't swim?
Probably not. I don't know now. I got swimming lessons after this actually, but I couldn't. I was trying to reach on the sides and I couldn't because it was mud, so I was just slipping. And these 2 kids fucking definitely saved my life. I mean, they instead of hesitating or like being scared or whatever, they grabbed me and pulled me out.
And then you go home like it's a normal night.
Yeah.
You gotta be home.
Oh, I still stayed out for probably like another 2 or 3 hours, soaking wet. Came home and I was like, "What the fuck is going on with your clothes?"
I'm like, swim lessons.
I didn't even say that. I think I like just started walking in my room to go play with my toys. Like, almost drowned today. I'll see you later, Dad. And he's like, "Wait, what?" And but then after that I got swim lessons. Now I'm a top-notch swimmer.
You're good. You're good.
I doggy paddle the best of them. But so then after that, we moved to St. Louis. which also it was actually St. Charles, which is kind of a suburb of St. Louis, but that was a weird situation. It was the first time I really understood boundaries have to be somewhere, or not boundaries, but just like lines, because on this side of this street was like nice neighborhoods, and on this side was like the projects, which was a fun time for me. I loved it. But the schools there also very crazy. So also the last name Hammer when you're a kid and you're always the new kid also creates a lot of fighting. Because people are like, oh, MC Hammer or whatever. And since I'm always the new kid, I always felt like I had to defend myself. So the third day at Central was actually the name of that school, the elementary school. The third day, somebody was making fun of my last name, like whispering behind me. And what's, the biggest book in your desk when you're in elementary school? Social studies. So I pulled it out, spun around, cracked him with it. And then kind of the same patterns happened there that happened in California, but it wasn't as the cliquiness or type of gang mentality wasn't quite as harsh in St. Louis. But there were still groups, and like we fought amongst each other all the time. Me and this kid TJ Nunley, who lived in those projects right across the street, we were like best friends, but fought all the time. So actually one time our teacher's name was Mrs. Lay, and we decided we wanted to do an April Fool's trick. And so we fought all the time, and everybody knew it. Like, this school wasn't as big, so when we got in fights there, everybody knew. So we wanted to do a April Fool's trick. So we're coming back from choir class, walking back, and me and TJ are like, all right, we're going to do this? Like, yeah. So as soon as we walk into the classroom, Mrs. Lay is outside talking to the principal, and we just start fake fighting, but like going at it, throwing each other over desk. And this girl, Natalie, was like, Mrs. Lay, David and TJ are fighting again. And the principal and Mrs. Lay come out, and she was like, are you guys kidding me? And we were supposed to stop and go, April Fools! And no lie, they both started laughing and walked out.
They were probably just like relieved
that we weren't actually fighting again.
Whatever, we don't have to deal with like disciplinary action at this point.
It got to the point that for a while, me nor TJ were allowed to go to recess anymore. We had to go and read to the kindergartners during recess.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. Let's take these really high energy kids and then like stifle them even more.
Or like, let's take these violent criminals and put them with children. Obviously an exaggeration, but it just clicked in my head like that. That's kind of funny to me. These kids fight all the time. Let's make them mentors to these younger kids.
It's perfect.
Like, how old were you then? Like
that was 5th grade.
So what is that, like
10?
10-ish?
Yeah, probably around 10. I don't know. Yeah, I fought a lot, but I've never been like a mean guy who wanted to fight. Like, I was actually really active in church then too. I went to like 3 different churches by choice. I still always wanted to help people. I still got along with most people, but I think just the environment of moving around so much and always being the new kid, I was just quick to fight. I felt like I always had to defend myself. And I think a lot of that just stemmed from California initially, because I probably could have got away with not doing that in St. Louis, but it was just what I was accustomed to, I guess.
Yeah. Were you still moving around after that, as much?
In St. Louis, we stayed in the same place.
Until how old were you?
So from 5th grade to halfway through my freshman year, and then that's when we moved here. The high school there was super crazy though. I definitely stopped fighting when I got there because I was like, yeah, no, I'm not messing with these
like
people.
You're definitely probably gonna get like stabbed or shot or something.
You had to wear your ID badges. Like my graduating class, they ended up building another high school because my graduating class would have been like 2,000 kids.
Jesus.
Man. So was it like a culture shock when you came here?
Yeah, but also fun.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was easier to know everybody.
Yeah.
Like there, I was never going to know everybody. You know what I mean? So it was fun for me. And also, the people here had a completely different mentality than everywhere else I had been. Like I got in a couple of fights once I moved here, but nowhere near as much. And I never really felt the need to. Like I met good people right away. And
so what were some of like the biggest differences of the people here? Because I have a similar experience because I grew up in Pittsburgh. it wasn't quite as big as like California schools, but like there
Yeah.
definitely were differences.
Well,
coming here.
one, everybody knows everybody, so everybody kind of treats everybody with a little bit more respect, even if it's not a true respect. It's we all know each other,
Yeah.
you know. So even if it's not a genuine thing, it still exists. And then just like when people say Steubenville is dangerous, it's like always like a giggle in my head, you know.
Like you have no idea.
You have,
what real
you
danger
have
is.
no clue. Like in St. Louis, if I walked into the wrong bathroom in my high school, my shoes were gone. Well, not mine, because mine were shit. But if you had nice shoes, nobody wanted my voids. But that was another big difference. Like going from a place where like Bloods and Crips were a real thing. Like once I got to high school, and even in the places that were kind of close to me, where Bloods and Crips were a real thing, and they didn't commingle, to sitting on my buddy's porch, who was a Crip, and then I meet his brother, who lives in the same house, who is a Blood. And I'm like, what is happening here? So just in general, just a lot, an extreme amount more peaceful.
And you went to Steubenville Catholic Central, right? Is that the high school? Yeah, you were at Central, weren't you?
I went there
For a period of time.
for a period of time. When we first moved here, we moved in with my grandma. It was a bad situation that caused us to have to move, and my parents didn't have money put together really. But my mom's parents, or my mom's mom, not both parents, but because her parents were also divorced. Oh yeah, so at some point my mom and dad got back together. My mom and dad got back together and had PJ and Hannah before we moved to St. Louis. I kind of parent trapped them actually, so we'll get back into that, I guess. But when I first moved here, we lived with my grandma, and it was just me and my dad at first, while my mom and my siblings were back in St. Louis, like getting stuff ready. And my dad trying to get his first own entrepreneurial business off the ground. And then once he did, he rented a house over by Central. But so when I first moved here, I went to Indian Creek.
Okay.
And in that case, I was again the new kid, and these kids had no idea what life was like. They were all like, man, you moved here from St. Louis? Like, what is St. Louis like? So I told them stories, some of which were true, some of which weren't. Just trying to like fit in and make a name for myself right away. Some of those stories I regret, because I was in one of those gangs, you know.
You're like, yeah, you don't know, man. It's hard out there.
It's hard out here for a pimp, you know. Just out there struggling, keeping up the grind, trying to keep my homies up, you know. So I went to Indian Creek, and then when we moved into my dad rented the other place. It was by Central, but I went to Big Red, and then I went there for a year, then went to Central for a semester. They didn't like me much. I didn't like them much, and then I went back to Big Red.
Oh.
Graduated from Big Red barely.
They were
What year did you graduate?
2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm right behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought me and you were pretty close. Yeah. You're
Couple years.
05.
05, yeah.
But I do remember your class.
Yeah, we were maniacs.
Yeah. But you guys were a fun class.
Yeah, we definitely had fun. That's for sure.
Well,
So did your drinking start when you were younger or older or all of the above?
So my drinking didn't really start very much till the Air Force. I smoked a lot of weed. A lot of weed, which I'm an advocate for weed, marijuana, whatever you want to call it. I'm an advocate for it, but I actually don't think I probably should have been smoking weed when I was in high school. I think your brain isn't fully developed, so I think that's kind of something you shouldn't do till you're older. Not that I instilled that in other people, but
in hindsight,
yeah. But I
your
smoked.
personal experience.
I smoked a lot of weed. I drank every now and then. Everybody knew what I drank. I called it my chocolate milk, so they called it my chocolate milk. It was Rolling Rock. I would never get more than a 6-pack if we were going to a party, and I would maybe drink 3. And a lot of times I wouldn't even take any alcohol. Then every once in a while I'd drink some vodka or something like that. But you would never really see me drunk in in high school. Air Force was a different story.
So did you go to Air Force immediately after graduating?
No, I decided that after I was not really doing anything good, I was working 2 or 3 jobs at a time, hanging out places I shouldn't have been hanging out, very narrowly escaping trouble a couple of times. I mean, I got arrested a couple of times in high school, but after high school, there were times I could have gotten a decent amount of trouble. And I was like, man, what am I doing? I got to do something. Like, I gotta pull my life together in some way. And I went to the Air Force and didn't pull my life together.
What do you mean the Air Force doesn't immediately make you get your shit together?
No, again, everything has to do with your mentality. So if you want to get your shit together, a major life change, if you don't actually change your mentality, is not actually going to change your life.
Shocking.
Crazy, right? You actually have to deal with your shit before you can change your life.
What do you mean?
I think the hard thing for me forever, like, changing that is I always considered myself to be a good person, and people always told me that I was a good person and that I didn't have a problem. Like, even when I would tell people, the only time you will ever see me, like, truly drunk is if I'm with my closest friends, because that's the only place I feel comfortable enough to really let go. I'll drink around a bunch of people and get drunk, but only around my closest friends will I really let go. Like at the house, when we would have our smaller house parties of like 20 or 30 people, those people I was all really close with. So I would tell them sometimes, like, guys, I can't keep doing this. Like, I got to change. They're like, no, dude, like, you go to work, you pay your bills, you help people, you're a nice guy. Like, you don't need to change anything. And while I appreciate what they were saying and they were trying to be supportive, I definitely did need to make some changes. So I don't know where you want to go from here.
So you did
There's
Air
like
Force.
Air Force.
How long were you in the Air Force?
Yeah, I was gonna say how long.
Well, I signed up for 6 years.
And did.
4.
And were you discharged?
Oh yeah. So
Honorably or dishonorably?
bad conduct.
Bad conduct. Okay.
Which is surprising because normally when they send you to jail, they do give you a dishonorable.
Okay. So they just.
This is the one story I was really
Okay.
interested
So
in.
you're
I saw that. I was like, whoa.
on our Venn diagram. This is where we have the overlap.
Yeah, so I went to the Air Force. As per usual, I made a very big group of friends. We partied a lot. Had a lot of fun. I did.
Were you a local? Like, where did you?
I was in Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in New Jersey, McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey. It's connected to Fort Dix Army base, and it's in man, I can't remember. It's in a small town. It's like that's what's there,
Okay.
and then like a couple of fast food joints out. Right something, but the closest place that actually had some civilization was Burlington.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, like 2001, 2002, somewhere around there. But yeah, Burlington was the closest actual like life, which is where I went to Burlington County Jail.
Remember that name?
Yeah, that one's not hard to forget, or is hard to forget. So the Air Force was awesome. Did change a lot of my work habits, I will say that. So I was a boom operator. I refueled planes in the air. Which was kind of crazy looking back on. But also, in retrospect, I never should have done that job because my whole idea for the Air Force was I'm going to go learn something that I can do on the outside and make a bunch of money. They don't refuel planes in the air outside of the military, which nobody brought up to me. They were just like, hey, $8,000 sign-on bonus and blah, blah, blah. That $8,000 didn't last long either. But, so the dorms there, like it's more like college life or worse. Because you have some people who are like forced to go in the military. You have some people who are just like, I gotta escape, like literally escape, and so they join the military. Then you have, people who just don't know what they're doing with their life. Then you have hardcore military people. So there's a big clash of personality. And for me, still not being 21, I also thought they're not gonna care if we drink, but they definitely do.
Ooh.
But,
I wouldn't have realized that.
Yeah, they definitely care. But so I ended up with making like a large group of friends, and we had like we partied throughout all the dorms. I was friends with a lot of the SPs because another problem with the military is there's, I don't think rape culture is the right word, but there's some really bad shit that goes down, and I always stick my nose into bad shit. So the SPs, who are our MPs, military police, we call them SPs. They knew me really well from taking girls in there or snatching somebody up until they got there. So I got away with some stuff. So I would throw these massive dorm parties. Massive. And I would get phone calls from some of the SPs because a bunch of us were underage, and they'd be like, hey, they got a noise complaint about your dorm. They're coming over now. And we would just all hide in rooms for a little while, and then they'd leave and we'd come back out. But our friend group had a good culture, and they gave me the nickname The Godfather because we would have like these rituals that, like, when somebody new would like enter our friend group, the thing we would do was you have to do whatever kind of drink thing every other member of the group wants you to do. And the only way you can stop is if you got sick. But then we had to take care of you for the rest of the night. Like, we wouldn't just like throw you on a couch. You know what I mean? Like, okay, now we take care of you for the rest of the night. And then you never have to go through that bullshit again.
A little light hazing.
Yeah, but so when it first started, there was only like a couple of us. It grew exponentially and became a problem. But like mine would always just be like, all right, grab your beer, and then I would give like this toast. I can't remember what it was now, but it was like a lot of people had a hard time not being around their family there. So it would be like, most of us here can't be with our family, but now we all have family. And then I would just cheers when we just take a drink of the beer. But when you have a culture built on partying, things tend to go sideways. And so pills started to get introduced. And I had a full-blown anxiety attack while I was in, which I didn't really even understand what that was until I had one. I was actually driving home from these people I knew outside of the military. I actually knew them from my dad's business. And I went to the bars with them and drank with them. And I was driving back, and I was going through some tough times there. I always went through some tough times because I didn't deal with my shit. So on my drive back, all of a sudden, I just lost all control of my emotions. I was crying. I didn't know why. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't figure out where I was. I'm driving down the highway. And so I pulled off of the highway. I don't know why. I called this guy Sergeant Widerhausen. He was one of my trainers, and he was a younger guy who I had like a good rapport with, but I don't even remember how I like even got to his number. But I called him. He was like, Hammer, like he wasn't even in town. He was on a trip like for the Air Force. And he was like, Hammer, what is going on? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm freaking out. I can't stop crying. I don't know where I am. He goes, try to figure out where you are. And then he finally talked me through and got me out of that. And then he took me to go see like a counselor, and they prescribed me so much meds. They put me on Xanax, Klonopins, and Prozac.
Damn.
Yeah. So for a while I took them, and I was walking around like a zombie. And I kind of stopped taking them because I realized I had a problem with them. Xanax, come on. Mm-hmm. So I kind of stopped taking them. And I never really abused the Xanax. But at that same time, like our party scene, our little party group of family had started like not just drinking. We had a friend who had Adderall, so now everybody's doing Adderall. Now that's something I can definitely admit to that I was partaking. I was taking Adderall for sure. And then unbeknownst to me, some other friends were even doing some more hardcore stuff. And I gave away a couple of pills for free of my Xanax prescription. I don't even ever remember like giving away. I don't even think I ever gave away like an entire prescription bottle worth of. In my recollection, which could be fuzzy, could be wrong, but it was like 2 or 3 pills that I gave away. Well, the people I gave them to got in trouble for other shit. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was partaking in the Adderall and all that and partying with these guys, but they got in trouble for like cocaine and all this other stuff that I had no idea was going on. That I didn't know about. And So basically, a couple of people set up everybody else when they got caught.
Oh.
So OSI, Operation of Special Investigation, I think it is called, for the Air Force, when they called me in, they said, all right, this is what's going on. They kind of broke down the scenario to me, and they said, and they're saying that you've been on base selling Percocets, Vicodin, Xanax, and all this other stuff. I'm like, guys, I gave away a couple of Xanax for free. And they were like, so you're admitting to distributing narcotics. And I was like, wait,
You're like, no, but yes, and
so, I was one of the last ones to get pulled in because at the time I was also going through the possibility of being medically discharged because of the anxiety. I was actually in, I think Lackland is where they sent me to fight to try to stay in. When I got the phone call from some other people, which I honestly think was also a sting call. So of course I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He was like, no man, all the pills. And I'm like, what pills? He's like, like the Adderall and stuff we've all been doing. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, it was a weird conversation. So I'm not gonna lie, still at that point I went in and purposely crashed my court appearance to get medically discharged. I'm like, shit's about to go down. I just take this medical discharge and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out that way because as soon as I got back to the base, they called me in. All that happened. And I was the target. Somehow I became the target. I was this huge pill dealer. Like it was like once somebody heard that story, everybody just jumped on board. And I was like, this is fucking crazy. All of a sudden, like a large group of that family just avoided me at all costs. And I didn't really hold any animosity to them. I mean, they were scared the same way I was scared. Like, what the fuck is going to happen, So, man, it's so crazy to think back on. So I was also the last people to be able to get a lawyer. So I had to get a military lawyer from another base, and it was this lady who ended up being terrible. But so she said, we can work out this deal where you admit to distributing Xanax, and they'll take the Percocet and Vicodin and stuff off the board. I'm like, okay, well, is that what I should do? She was like, I think so. So I did that, but then I still had to go through a court case, And I was highly respected in our squadron. I was known as a partier for sure, but I was pretty much running the mobility shop, which is where you make sure everybody in the squadron can deploy. They have everything ready to deploy. Their shots up to date, all their paperwork, everything is ready to go at the drop of a hat. So I was running that as like a senior airman when that's like a captain's job. So, and I wasn't obviously even an officer. So I had a lot of support. So like my squadron commander came and testified on my behalf. My first sergeant, who's in charge of like all reprimands for enlisted in the squadron, came and testified on my behalf. The captain, who was the one who was in charge of the mobility shop, and they're like telling him like, we would have failed our Mobex exercise if it wasn't for him. This kid's a bright star in the squadron and on this base, who just made a mistake. And I mean, the courtroom was full, and I thought it was always like that. But then the judge said, I've never had an airman come into my courtroom with so much support. Not just the people up here testifying for him, but this courtroom is full. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be okay. And she was like, but that tells me I have to make an example out of you.
No.
So it was pretty much straight from there to jail. And my options were 2.5 years in a military prison, or it was like 2.5, 3 months in a civilian jail. I think it's just because there's not a close military prison, so they're like, if we don't have to pay to transport you, then you can get less time. And a weird thing that happened with that is they have to give you like this whole medical outtake or whatever, you know. So it was the first time I ever got the whoo-hoo, the finger on the butt to make sure you don't have anything wrong with you, you know. Not drugs, like
bend over and cough.
Bend over and cough, yeah. And I was like, is this for real? And then now there has to be a guard with me at all times because I'm a fucking convict, right? So he has to stand in there and watch this. And I know the guy, it's Sergeant Eccles. And he's like, the guy's like, the doctor's like, this is no big deal. You had to do this when you went through basic training. I was like, or when you got signed up. I was like, no, I did not. He goes, yeah, you did. And Sergeant Eccles goes, no, we didn't. And like, and Sergeant Eccles is like looking up at the sky. I'm like, this is awkward as fuck.
Do you think, like, looking back now, like, because that happened, what, 2000 and...
Probably like 2000.
2003?
No, me getting locked up like 2004, 2005 probably,
so do you
maybe
think
6.
that because of, that was, prescription drugs were just, those were the party drugs at the time. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and in like, if I was a civilian, nothing would have happened.
No.
They would have been like, hey, man, don't do that. Don't give away your pills.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Or like, maybe something stupid, minor. But
Right.
do you think it was just a sign of the time? Because that was right. I mean, we were really hitting the
yeah.
climax of
No, so
that
the
issue.
the reason they don't follow the same laws in the military. So the law books for the military is called the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And in that book, it tells you everything about your life. You're only allowed to have sex in the missionary position. You're not allowed to have oral sex. You're not allowed.
It literally says that.
Yeah, for real.
Well, then I know a lot of people in the military that should have been in jail.
Yeah, like obviously, most of that stuff isn't enforced or whatever. You know
But
what I
they
mean?
have that
But it's in
yeah.
there. Yeah, but it's in there. So that's the thing is it's more guilty till proven innocent than innocent till proven guilty. You know.
And then it was of the times, prescription drugs is an
They
epidemic,
definitely and I'm
and
sure it was a problem on every fucking military base too, because it was a problem
at every
everywhere.
school, every job,
Yeah.
every home. Like,
Yeah,
that was.
So I'm sure that had part to do with it, but then like the harshness of it, I'm sure is just because it's the UCMJ. It's not our normal rights that we have when we're not in the military.
So did you end up in civilian jail or did you?
Fuck yeah, I wasn't doing 2 years.
So you did like a couple months.
Yeah, so it ended up being if I remember correctly, it ended up being a little bit longer than it was supposed to be, because they wanted me to do something and I wouldn't do it. They wanted me to testify against this girl, and instead of testifying, because then they told me they were going to give me more time if I did. Instead of testifying, I made them all look really stupid, and they weren't happy about that. Actually, the girl's lawyer came in and said she'd be going to jail if it wasn't for you. She messaged me when I got out. Her name was Angel. But anyway, so you want to know what my experience was like?
Yeah.
So
What was jail like?
I would never want to do it again, but in truth, I had some fun. So,
Wait, can I just tell you that any person that I know that has just done like a short period of time in jail,
yeah,
same thing. Everyone
yeah,
met great people. It really it's jail, but it was like they had like some positive, fun experiences.
Yeah.
but it was still jail.
yeah. Like it, I was terrified at first, right?
Oh, I bet.
So I get there. Another problem is, so like, they give me the orange jumpsuit. They didn't have shoes. There was too many people. They're overcrowded, so they didn't have shoes. So I'm wearing my fucking
Military boots.
military shoes, the shiny ones.
Oh Jesus.
So when I'm walking through, they're like, "Oh, police got locked up," and I'm like, "Hey,
Oh,
nope,
no,
nope, not police, Air Force did something stupid. They got me here." But so when I'm going through intake, I'm in there with this old guy, and I'm looking at this sandwich they gave me, like, I'm not eating this. And the old guy's like, "Hey man, can I have that sandwich?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure, here." He's like, "Thanks, man, I appreciate that." He was like, "You know where you're going? You know what block you're going to?" And I said, "So I'm going to D block." He goes, "Oh, my son's over there. Tell him you took care of me." And I was like, "Okay, what's his name?" He goes, "Oh, D block." I'm like, "No, what's his name?" He's like, "D block." I'm like, "Okay." So I go over there, and sure enough, D block's over there, and he's like one of like the main bloods on the block. So me and him are like immediate, like, cool. But before I actually met D-Block, so what was I going to do? Just start walking around the block like, hey, D-Block! Is there a D-Block here? I have a message from your father. Is there a PA system here? So the first.
Literally, how many like cells like set it up? Like what?
So there's a top and a bottom and a bunch of cells.
Okay.
I'm not really sure how.
A lot.
Yeah, like I'd say it's hard to remember now. I'd say anywhere between like 15 and 20 on the top, 15 and 20 on the bottom. 2 to 4 people per cell because they were overcrowded. So there's 2 beds. Then they would have like random things you throw on the floor. So the first thing I did, honestly, I'm not kidding you. I was scared. I was terrified. You know, I had no idea what to expect. So the first thing I did is I was like, let me try to find the biggest non-racist looking white guy. Because I don't care how things worked, if it was like the movies or not. I was not joining in with the Aryan Nation. I would tell them to go fuck themselves. Take a shank for that and be happy about it. So I found that guy, and that dude was like, "What's that, Baby Huey? Like the big fucking duck that wears a diaper in the cartoons? You know what I'm talking about? That's basically what this guy was. His name was Gabe. Shout out to Gabe, and he was awesome. He was hilarious. He was a good guy. He wasn't really a good guy, but he was a good guy. So I made friends with him first, and then I met D-Block, and me and D-Block ended up being cool. And then Gabe's cell was right next to mine, and then he ended up getting a cellmate whose name was Mario, and Mario was in Niete, a Puerto Rican prison gang, and he was awesome. He was like he was allegedly a really big ecstasy dealer, allegedly. And he would show me all his photos that his wife is sending him about like all of his new stuff that he had, like when he got out. But he took to me real quick too. So, and he was also like, as cool as he was a fucking no joke guy. He got more time because he kept getting jumped by Bloods, and yet they wasn't helping him. He was in prison, not jail, and he got his hands on a bunch of padlocks, threw them in a pillowcase, and fucked some people up. And so there was also a guy named Neftali who, if I remember right, he was also in Yete too, and he didn't speak a lick of English, but me and him played cards every day with a translator. But so I guess some stories from there. The only time I ever had any fear while I was there, I'm a really competitive person when it comes to like especially basketball, because my whole life I've been pretty decent at basketball. That's one of the few things we can do there. Like weights and stuff are gone from jails.
Oh yeah, those are
really?
weapons.
Yeah,
Weapons.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Your body weight, right? You're allowed to do like body weight movements.
Correct.
And
They have
that's
stuff
about
like
it.
I have on my porch, like the pull-ups and stuff like that. But there were no weights,
No
and I was
free weights.
really fat at this time too. I'm one of the few people that probably didn't lose any weight in jail either. But so we were playing basketball, and there was this guy, a Muslim guy who was giant, played in the NFL for a brief period, was there for, none of us knew for sure, but everybody was assuming murder. But he was there for a court case. That's the only reason he was in the jail. Like a lot of times jail is like a holdover for your court case, then you go back to prison. But he was just fucking huge. And we're all playing basketball. Shout out to D-Block for that too, because D-Block would always let me wear his shoes till mine came in. So we're playing, and everybody's like scared of this guy, so nobody's really guarding him, and he's fucking racking it up on us. And I'm like, fuck this, like this is ridiculous. I'm like, fuck it, I got him, get out of the way. So I start guarding him, and I'm using some cheat moves that I don't know if they're necessarily fouls or not, but they definitely never have been on any street course I've ever played on. But so he's always posting up and just bullying people around. So I started taking my knee and putting it in the back of his knee and just moving him where I wanted him to go. And he got real mad. They started losing, and he got fucking pissed. And he turned around, grabbed me, and threw me into the basketball pool. And my shoulder hit, and I was like, oh fuck, what do you do? Like, it's been smooth sailing here till now. I swear, this probably was like 1 minute, but I swear all of this went through my head. Like, you have a good reputation here? Are you gonna be a bitch? Like, what if you do you have to stand up to this guy? And I decided I was going to.
Oh
much to my surprise, because the first instinct was get the fuck out of here. But so I walked up to him and I just said something to the effect of like, hey, I don't know what the fuck your problem is, but if you're mad because you're losing now, then go sit the fuck down. Otherwise, just fucking play. And I was like, this is where I die. In my head. and to my surprise again, he went and sat down. And I was like, what the fuck? And then we finished the game. We won. But then I'm in my cell like, this dude hates me. I am so fucked. The guards aren't going to be able to stop him if he comes after me. He'll toss them around like, I mean, he was huge.
Yeah, and they probably were like, fuck this. He's just here for his court date and then he's out. Like, we're not starting shit.
But so my cellmate, when I got there, I got really, really lucky with my cellmate. Shout out to Jimmy. Jimmy was at the time 32 years old, but hadn't seen a full year on the street since he was 18. And he was just my guy, man. He was awesome. I love that dude. I wish I knew how to get in touch with him now. And I hope you're doing good. But like I would help him write letters to like his baby mom he's trying to get back with. And like we just had a fucking great relationship. He was awesome. He saw me like pacing the cell. Because like how it works is when the top is out of their cell, the bottom is locked up. Vice versa. But when they would take us to the yard, I'm pretty sure we were all allowed out. But so he's like, Hammer, what's going on? What the fuck is the matter with your shoulder? I can't remember the big guy's name, but I was like, old Muslim boy threw me into the basketball hoop, man. He was pissed, and I think he's probably still pissed. Jimmy was like, don't worry about that. I'm like, what do you mean? Don't worry about that. He's like, I got it, man. Relax. I'm like, I'm not going to relax. Like that dude's going to rip my arm off and beat me with it. It's 100% guarantee, Jimmy. What are you talking about? And he's like, Hammer, relax. So I'm sitting there playing casino for soups, which is ramen noodles. And here he comes. And I'm like, oh, this is it. I'm fucking dead. He comes up, taps me on my shoulder. I'm like, hey. And he's like, I just wanted to apologize to you for earlier. I shouldn't have done that. I've never been so excited in my whole fucking life. I stood up and I hugged him.
Oh my God.
And then I felt very weird, as did he, about the fact that I hugged him.
Were you like, I'm sorry, sir. I just thought you were gonna kill me.
No, I just got up and I hugged him and I was like, sorry for that. Then I sat back down. He's like, don't worry about it, man. And he just walked off. Never spoke to me again.
Wow.
But yeah, terrifying. That was the only scary part. Other than that, I ended up running a store. So like how a store works there is like you get money on your books for commissary, so you can buy a bunch of ramen noodles, a bunch of snack cakes, a bunch of whatever, anything they'll sell you in commissary. And then when people don't have money on their books and they want something, they come to you and they're like, hey, can I get one ramen now, and the next commissary I'll give you two. Or they'll really try to negotiate and be like, can I get 2 ramen noodles, and next commissary I'll give you 3. So it's a little bit of a better deal for
So
them.
essentially you're the cash advance place.
Yeah.
And we all know what happens.
Yeah.
So you hold the power.
Yeah, so I ran the store, but I couldn't have been more generous. So me and Mario ended up doing cook-ups all the time, and we would distribute them to like all the people we were cool with. And it got to the point like everybody on the block knew me, had respect for me. I'm very lucky for that. And so, like, anytime somebody who looked like they might be military came in, somebody would walk by my cell and be like, hey, Hammer, looks like there's a new military guy in this cell. I'm like, all right, appreciate you. And then as soon as I got out, I'd go check on them, make sure they were all right, give them some food. And we had a guy called Navy there. He was an old, retired, high-ranking guy in the Navy, so I took care of him. Then there was a super green Air Force kid in there who got in trouble for, like, white-collar crimes. He was, like, getting people's credit card numbers and shit, and he was in there terrified, like more scared than I was, and I was scared. So, and then he ended up being cool with everybody just because he was associated with me, I guess. But we would do these hookups. Now I don't know if in prison you can actually, some prisons let you have shit like hot plates and shit like that. That doesn't exist in jail. No cigarettes, no hot plates, no TV in your cell. So what we would have to do is we'd have to get a clean garbage bag from, like a never used garbage bag from one of the guards. And what me and Mario would do is put a bunch of ramen noodles in there, pick out our flavor packets, cut up some summer sausage, get some like nacho cheese in that bitch. Just, you know, any kind of stuff you could get from commissary.
You would have
and
so
mix them
much
up.
fun with that.
So then what you have to do is you have to get like a 20-ounce soda bottle, because the sinks are push button. Now the water comes out fucking hot though. So you put all that shit in the trash bag, tie it off, and then you take the soda bottle and wedge it on the hot water, and then you just roll it. And so we would do these giant cook-ups and like distribute like 30 meals out around the cell block. Like I think like, well, sadly, like it's kind of ignorant. I think like 6 people didn't get a meal.
So basically, what you're saying is, if you didn't get a meal, you really fucked up.
Yeah. If you
Somewhere
didn't, if
you
you
really
didn't,
fucked up.
if you didn't get a meal, it meant pretty much everybody on the block didn't like you. The only other weird. This is when I knew that I was actually in there. I was in there like good with people. So the showers. First of all, one of the first questions I asked Jimmy was like, this is when I first got into the cell. He was like, "You look nervous, man." After he discovered that me and him were gonna be cool? He's like, "You look nervous, man. Like, what questions do you got?"
All of them.
So I was like, "What about like, you know, like the shower rapes and stuff like that?" He was like, he said N-word, but I'll say man. He said, "Man, you don't come to prison and become gay." And he was like, "That shit's for the movies." He said that shit don't really happen. He's like, gay people find each other, and maybe if you really do something ignorant to somebody, he was like, but no, you know, that's not something you have to worry about at all. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's a relief. But so the reason that popped in my head is because how the showers work. There was one shower on the first floor, one shower on the second floor, but it was one at a time. So I always kept like my soap and my shampoo like towards the back, because it was like the length of this room, oddly enough, with one shower head. So one time I turned around and my shampoo was gone. I was like, what the fuck? And this is before even the like violent thing happened with the Muslim guy. So I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do? And so I'm like walking back and forth, like, do I just start asking people like who stole my shampoo? Do I just pretend it didn't happen? Like, so Mario and D-Block saw me like pacing. They're like, Hammer, what's wrong? I couldn't even get the full fucking sentence out. I was like, man, I was in the shower and my shampoo, and they're like, oh, fuck no, who got Hammer shampoo? And they just start pacing back and forth, screaming. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. And then next thing I know, this dude, Nunez, he was a Latin guy, but he was a blood. And he came up to me like off to the like side. He was like, hey man, I think I got your shampoo. Can I just give it back to you? And I was like, yeah, man, I just want my shampoo back. He's like, you know, I didn't steal it, right? And I'm like, I don't care. I just want my shampoo back.
I need that.
He was like, one of the fiends got it. And I was like, Craig? Swear to God, Craig. It's not a throwback to the movie. The guy's name was Craig. And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, man, don't worry about it. He was like, you want me to say something to Craig? I'm like, no, dude, just give me my shampoo. Oh, man.
So was it like bittersweet, like when your time came to an end, having to leave these people?
Dude, yeah, for real. And like, I legitimately thought I was going to keep in contact with some. And some of them wrote me and stuff like that. But at the same time, while I would have loved to, like, those people's mentalities weren't changing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were in that life, and they were going to keep being in that life. I would love, if some of them aren't, to reach out to me. I would love to talk to them. But if I stayed stuck in that mentality, talking to them, helping them out, I think I would have been at a detriment to myself. And there's not very often that I choose myself over that, but that time I did. And because I mean, I was just getting out of fucking jail. They put a drug trafficking felony on my record. I was having a hard time finding a job. I did some questionable things. And so I really was like, I need to kind of focus, which I still partied a lot, so I don't know how much I focused, but I just knew that I couldn't keep in contact with that. But it was very bittersweet. I mean, I formed a bond with a lot of those people. Like,
Yeah, it sounds like you had some really meaningful things out of it, even though it was a bad experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, I
in
definitely
many ways.
did. It's also when I started reading again. I started reading all the time. Mario, he wanted me to get out and start working for him. I was like,
thanks, buddy, but
he's like, I got these 2 nightclubs, man, and I'm like,
yeah, you do know what charges I'm in here on. We don't want to add.
Yeah. So, and then.
So where did you go from there? Like, how did you move on? Like, did you?
That's when you
what
came
kind of
back.
work did you find?
That's when I came back. It was actually a really weird experience because when I went in, though it seems small, but it was shocking to me. It was culture shock. When I went in, the world was one way, and it was different when I came out in such a small way, in small ways, but it was. And I felt it just a little weird. You know, I can fucking walk wherever I want. But like when I went in, you could smoke in restaurants and bars. And so like my first day out, I wanted to be able to be there for like a week or so. It's like, because my friends from the military came and visited me. That's how I got money on my books. Like they would come in wearing free Hammer shirts and shit. And so I had a lot of close bonds there still too, you know. A lot of them dissipated because of everything that happened, but a lot of them were still there. And so I wanted to be able to spend time with them. But like my grandpa came to pick me up, and I was there for like a day and a half or something. But we went to Applebee's. I smoked in jail cigarettes. Like there was a guard who would like tear off the end of the Newport and give it to us, and nobody could tell it was a Newport. So I didn't get to smoke as much as I normally did. So I couldn't wait for it, and it was non-filtered. So I couldn't wait to get a cigarette. So I lit that cigarette up in Applebee's. Everybody's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Just smoking a cigarette, man. What are you talking about? We weren't allowed to smoke in restaurants and bars anymore." I was like, "What the fuck is going on? I thought we were free."
Like, you are, sir. Please put your cigarette out.
Yeah. But then we moved back, and then I initially was just working for the family business, and it was tough. Me and my dad butted heads a lot. I think part of it was they were upset with me, as they probably should have been, you know. Like, one thing I used to tell myself was that, like, I was a victim here, right, for that situation. Like, I'm a victim. Like, this shouldn't have happened to me. Like, what's going on here? And I had to get to the point where I accepted the fact that no matter what, you did give those pills to people. Like, that happened. You could have not given those pills to people. If you wouldn't have given those pills to people, you probably wouldn't be here, or you probably wouldn't have went through that. So I had to accept and deal with that, which I had a hard time with it for, especially leading up to like the court case and stuff like that. I mean, I was losing my fucking mind, and playing just victim mentality. But so I still had a little bit of that mentality when I came home, and I think that bothered my dad some. But so we butted heads a lot. We didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but like, I couldn't find a job. Like, for a minute, I was cooking at Dairy Queen. I can't remember if that was right after or not, but
it might have been around when I first met you, right? From construction.
It was probably a year, maybe 2 years. Yeah. A year, maybe 2 years, maybe a little more. But so eventually, I went to Zielinski's, and I got a job waiting tables. And I'd never waited tables before, and that got me started in the restaurant business. And I've been kind of doing the restaurant business ever since. But it was something that they didn't do background checks, and I could make decent money, you know. I never thought I'd get into the management side, or fuck, especially now as chef. I never thought I'd be a chef, but it's a miserable business, to be honest, but it saved me in a lot of aspects.
Now, can you seal your record?
Well, so my record is gone.
Nice.
Which I had no idea. So there's a guy in town named John Kukris, and so when I managed the country club the very first time, he owns that New York Life.
Yeah.
He's a fucking great guy. So when he heard I left the country club the first time, he called me, and he was like, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody to like kind of come and be my partner over here, and I thought you would be great for that." And at this time, I wasn't telling anybody about my history. You know, I kept that shit to myself. But if he was going to offer me this situation,
yeah, you couldn't just be like, "No thanks, man." Like,
yeah, I felt
thanks,
like
no
I needed to tell him. You know, I'm like, "Well, listen, I don't know if there's a background check or not, but there's something you should know before this." And I gave him the whole story. He was like, hey, okay, whatever, man. Like, there is a background check, but let's just do it and see if anything pops up. And I was like, oh shit, he doesn't care about this at all. So, so we did the background check and nothing came up. And so I ended up calling my old squadron. So, like, the only way for that to really happen is for, I can't remember if it's a senator or a congressman or a house rep, whatever. I can't remember which one it is. But you have to, like, write them. And then they have to, like, make that happen.
Yeah.
Right? So, unbeknownst to me, my higher-ups in my squadron wrote them.
Oh, that's
no
fucking
way.
awesome.
And so, so eventually it came off my record.
Oh, that's great.
Sometimes it does pay to be a good person, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was shocked.
Wow.
Dude, my squadron was so awesome through the whole fucking thing, man. Like, when they wanted me to testify against that girl, and I'm supposed to be in my dress blues. They had to bring me my dress blues. I'm supposed to be fucking the full chains, feet, hands, the whole time. They're not supposed to give me any food, man. They had me all around the squadron, giving me fucking food, giving me hugs. I was eating fucking Wendy's. I was the happiest man alive. Because the best food I had in there was the ramen cook-ups we did. Fucking terrible. But they were all so fucking awesome.
From cooking ramen to now.
Yeah, shout out to Colonel Shifty. Man, I can't remember my Master Sergeant Boom operator's name, but he was a shit too. They supported me the whole way, even after things went with me ending up in jail. They were fucking great and helped me out without even letting me know and trying to seek acknowledgement for it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
was it hard for you too, like when you came back here, like people were partying pretty hard.
Yeah, we were.
So was that like triggering for you, or did that make you really like nervous? Did that fuel like anxiety for you to know, like, literally everyone's partying, everyone's doing pills, drinking, all that shit? Was that something that was like concerning to you?
No. So if you were at my house, because I have friends that actually went through real addiction, if you were at my house and I caught you with that kind of stuff, you had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about drinking, don't care about weed, but
yeah,
but
the other shit,
like one time somebody came to the house, we're throwing this big ass fucking party, and he was like, so I could just throw out some lines right here. And I was like, no, you cannot. You can't even have that shit in this house. And he's like, and I'm like, I'm not kidding. You can go put it in your car and come back in, but that can't be here. And I know sometimes things happen without my knowledge, but
there was none of that in the house.
Yeah, but my biggest concern with that wasn't even for me, because I knew I didn't care to do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I never did. Like, even when I was doing the Adderall, it wasn't like I was like, oh, I can't wait to do Adderall. It was like, fuck, everybody's doing Adderall. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So my concern was never me. My concern was for my friends that went through this very real thing. That not everybody that goes through addiction issues can then live a normal life of having alcohol and stuff. And I had friends that could do that, and they not only live great lives now, but they live fucking way better than I do. But I didn't want any of that stuff to be anything else to be around to even tempt them. So I just wouldn't allow it there. Some people thought I was a hard ass for it, but I don't care. I'm not putting my friends at risk.
Well, no, and that was like, house. Like, you had people, like, that was people's homes, and you bring that shit in, and someone gets caught up with shit, which I know there were a couple instances of things not being, those rules not being respected, but yeah, I just wondered if that was like an event that like was like, eh.
Partying never triggered me. Partying was it's hard. It's hard for me to say an escape, because I've never thought of myself as that type of person. But I'm gonna at least give it half of an escape. Like, one, I love being social. I love being around a bunch of people that I know and trust and having a good fucking time. But definitely also a lot of it was just to escape all my own questions about myself and how I lived my life and where my life had gone to. Like, not pursuing any of my dreams out of probably fear of failure, even though that's like, oh, well, that shit doesn't happen for anybody, so why is it going to happen for me, or whatever. So Yeah, it was definitely a very fun crutch for a very long time. Because I'm also not a bad drunk. Like I don't get mad.
No.
I don't.
I think you get like nicer.
Yeah,
If that's possible,
Yeah.
you get nicer.
Yeah, I don't lose my shit. The only way you're gonna get me pissed is if you fuck with somebody I care about. That's pretty much the only way you're gonna get me fucking fired up, and then it can happen. But even then, I usually, especially if I'm drinking, stay pretty level headed, and I don't ever get sloppy. Like even when I was drinking all the time, like you're not gonna see me falling. I never really slurred my words. Like maybe every once in a while when it's just me and my closest friend. Well, I don't want to put his name out there like that, but because when me and him are together and it's just me and him, we'll get fucked up. There were times where we'd be up till 4 or 5 in the morning playing our favorite songs, just screaming in each other's faces, and then I would fucking walk home, like 5 miles. Like can't drive, gotta walk. See you later.
But I'm going home to my own bed.
Yeah. I can't sleep anywhere else. Unless I'm like with like a significant other or something, but other than that, I have to go home. Like,
Same.
like he has a spare bedroom with a nice bed. I'm like,
Nope,
I gotta go home.
Same way.
Oh, 100%. I'm the same way. Always have been.
Yeah, I
We're going
can't.
fucking
Yeah.
home.
I was too.
We're going home. So, like, how do you feel about where you're at now? Like, full circle.
Terrible. Um, no, I'm happy, but you know, I'm starting to realize potential in areas at 40 that potential existed when I was fucking 12.
Yeah,
You
but
know
don't
what
you,
I mean.
like, you're not, I think so much of that is, like, number one, we have, like, cultural, societal influence on, like, God forbid you're a day over 25 years old because you're an old piece of shit. Like, your life is over. But it's like,
Yeah, I think
I think
everyone
you see
learns
those-
at different times. I don't think you have to be on the schedule of
no,
like,
and
Right.
you see these themes in your life, and, like, who cares if you notice that theme at 60?
yeah,
like-
you still have the potential. You could do whatever
Yeah.
you want with.
Yeah, it's not that. It's just it's looking back at the wasted time. You know what I mean? And I don't necessarily regret it because I love fucking all of my life experiences, even being locked up. Like I have had fun in terrible situations. I've had fun in great situations. I've had fun in great relationships. I've had fun in terrible relationships, and all of it teaches you something. You know, if it doesn't, then you're really failing. But like, just for example, like I don't care about money, fortune, or fame or anything like that. You know what I mean? My thing is just doing something that I like and being financially stable enough for me. You know, honestly, like for example, like for a while now, you've been doing stuff that you love to do, and that's how you're making the bulk of your living, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like all of your living at this point.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah. So, like, that's envy's not the right word. Like, I'm proud of you, and like that's the kind of thing that I want to do. And I think what's cool about what you do too is it's for me, it's one of the reasons I kind of think about getting into it. But you know, money. But is you're also getting to help people, and I think when you can help people, like your business too, like honestly, you help people feel beautiful. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think that's just fucking rewarding as hell on its own. I know, like, dealing with the public can be a fucking pain in the ass, but I think to find those like simple rewards in that, and for me, helping people has just always been really rewarding to me personally. So maybe almost selfishly, like I just see a better purpose in that, no matter what the profession is.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot. This has been a theme, like, over our, like, break from this. It has been a reoccurring, and like it almost gets louder every time it comes up, community. You know, it doesn't, I think we get lost when the focus is how much money can you make, you know, money, fame, and fortune.
Yeah.
So you say, and it's, you get lost in that because there's never enough to satiate that, because it's like an empty place. Whereas like community, like, we have our communities of people within our work and our pleasure. And like, I'm fortunate enough to have cultivated a community of my clients that like I love. I have my
Your people.
handpicked people. Like I'm very selective, and I'm fortunate. Like
because you've built to that
because I've
point.
built to that point. Same with you. You have your people, and within that community, I think, like you say, like you get to help people, but you also like you're not pouring yourself into, a cracked vessel, so to speak.
Yeah.
So if you can find, like you said, something that fills your cup, fills somebody else's cup, then I think that's bringing community all around, and you're gonna feel so much better about yourself.
Yeah, that's really what I'm trying to figure out, is really what my next step is at this point, because my head is like obviously thoroughly clear at this point. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm more comfortable, oddly enough, now not drinking. I'm way more comfortable with myself than I've ever been. And just figuring out what the right, like I actually like my job now, but there's a lot of issues with it. I don't make enough money to sustain other aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't want to be rich, but I want to be able to sustain. Like you
want to be comfortable,
and I want to also have time to do pursuits that I want to do. Like right now, like, I did my own podcast for a couple of years, and it kind of went by the wayside, first in the relationship because there was no time for that, and then also with work. And with work, it's still an issue. I do this with you guys, but then finding time after doing this to do my own is tough, because I work 10 to 12-hour days, anywhere between, depending on the week, 4 and 7 days a week, depending on what's going on. So it doesn't make for a lot of time. So there's part of me that says, just go work at the Walmart distribution center. 1, I'll make a lot more money. 2, I'll work 3 days. And then I have 4 days off to pursue anything else I want to do.
I feel like it is a matter, though, of just having enough time to do 2 things for a little while until you can have enough ground to move into the thing.
One thing that you want to do.
Well, that was you.
And that's my issue right now, is I have too much time in there.
In that,
When I think of Walmart, I don't think of Walmart as like, okay, that's where I'm going to go and that's where I'm going to be.
But that gives you the time, buys you the time.
It buys me the time and puts me in a much better financial situation too. So it puts me in a much better financial situation and gives me 4 days out of the week to pursue other goals.
And that's what, like, I was real big into the Gary Vee stuff. Like, he's a real adamant about when you're working, it should be, ideally, you want to be something passionate about, because then it's not like working.
Right.
He was really big in, like, you don't have to just jump into this thing and try a new thing. You can do it while you're doing something else and build. Like,
and that was you with graphic design. Like, you love graphic design, but like you said, you being forced into a creative box for someone else is not really it. But then you found that, like, oh, okay, this pays the bills while I can fuck around with personal training and just see, and now you can do both. And I enjoy doing both. I don't like sitting at a desk for 9 to 5 type of job. It's I have too much energy. I need to be. I
start falling asleep at the fucking desk. That was the problem with the family business. It was a desk job. I even tried to get my dad to get a stand-up desk. I'm like, hey, let's get a stand-up desk. I'll be way more.
That's what I did.
I told him I'll be way more fucking productive, and he was like, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Now everybody wants a stand-up desk or has a stand-up desk.
What's the best is, after I left, he sent me this article on the benefits of standing desks. I'm like, thanks, Dad.
I remember that conversation.
But yeah, so now I'm just trying to really figure out what my next step is, because this whole process has definitely like changed my life, and I have so much different life experience, and I like the idea of trying to help people train. Like, I've had people reach out to me, and I tell them I'm going to do my best to help them, but the issue is time. Like, when I'm like, okay, I'm going to write out some stuff for you, because I have learned a lot. While I'm not certified, I've read up on all of Aubrey Marcus's stuff, who's a human body genius. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, all kinds of different things. And the only thing I can say that is my proof in the pudding, or whatever the saying is me. Like, I went from 230 pounds to 170 pounds, and in a healthy way. Like, yeah, I lost it fast, but I didn't hurt myself in any way getting there. I didn't go on some extreme diet. I ate a lot. I ate stuff that I liked, and I worked hard. So, so it's something I think about. And then also, my dad was a massive movie fan. As you can see, he passed that on to me. And I always talked about trying to, even if it was just small roles or anything, just trying to like just go in there and just see what happens and see if I enjoy it and see if there's a possibility there. So I'm gonna try that. I worked out a deal with a buddy to get some headshots and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try that because I'm finally comfortable with myself enough to also do that, because that was something that always held me back, was my comfort myself from actually doing that, because the Pittsburgh film scene has been blowing up for years now.
Yeah.
So many things are filmed up there.
Yeah, and why not? It's so close. If it's something you're interested in, try it.
Right. So just keep finding my way to have the time to pursue those things. And I definitely want to start doing the podcast again, rebranded as Hammer On, instead of Gathering of Fools, because I don't think that fits as much anymore. You know, Gathering of Fools was like a party. I mean, we got some good information and stuff in there too, and we had some like guests that weren't just there to party as well. But I think Hammer On suits better now. And I like that.
Rebrand it.
I like
Yeah.
that's evolution of like everything. I think that's when you see like any like other podcasts. Like how many times can you have the same interview, have the same experience, talk about the same things until you've like exhausted it? Like you have to constantly like evolve with yourself. So like you've gone through a big change and like you have evolved and grown as a person, so everything else you have to like take that with you, or you're just not going to find joy in it anymore.
Yeah. And you know, if I don't pursue, I feel like if I don't pursue it that way too, it's also about not falling into old habits. So rebranding and changing. If you want to make a life change, but then you just jump back into the same environments and same habits, and it's not going to last. So it just, I don't know, it just seems like the right move if I can find the time. And I like the name Hammer On for multiple reasons. One, it's like keep going, hammer on. And also each episode is like hammer on nutrition, hammer on relationship, hammer on.
Yeah, that's
or
cool.
it could just be hammer on bourbon for this week, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It doesn't mean that it has to constantly be something that's inspirational or healthy or whatever, but I just think
Gives
that,
you more freedom. You can.
Yeah. And I think it also allows it to be more accessible to more people, because when people see Gathering of Fools, they assume it's one thing, you know. And I'll tell you the other thing that's crazy is my Instagram account got hacked during that whole process, and I only had like 250 followers or something, and I couldn't recover it, and so I started a new one, and it's only been it's been since in the middle of the 75 hard. I have 1,000 fucking followers.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, that's like you shift your alignment and like the things that are meant for you. I think the universe puts it that way. Like if you are in a line with the things that make you happy, you are going to like receive more of. So I think it's just easy to figure out like, oh, like there's abundance in this.
Yeah.
So like you like follow the dopamine, like follow the good stuff. I mean, it seems like really remedial when you say it like that, but I think that's true. And it's just being like bold enough to go, okay, like I like my job. This is cool, but it's not serving a bigger purpose. So like, let me try something else so that I can try other things.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is it's just like, as much as I enjoy it, it's not really serving me. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know why this just popped in my head, but for some reason I thought the whole time we've been trying to set this up that this was something I was going to end up bringing up somehow, some way. But because I've went through a lot of different things trying to find truth in different things, and so like people with like the star alignments and all of that, like I'm not knocking it in any way, but I think some people put too much into that. They let that, like, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, so this is why I am this way right now. And I think people have to stop letting stuff that they're interested or even believe in completely control them. Like, anything being in retrograde or anything being out of whack in whatever faith you have doesn't mean that that has control over you.
Or gives you an excuse.
Or gives you an excuse, or gives you an excuse to be
Like,
sometimes a
I
dirtbag.
was gonna totally start doing that thing, but I can't because Mercury's in retrograde, and I shouldn't start anything new right now.
Right. Yes. Stop it with that. Like,
I was gonna really be a good person this week, but
yeah.
Saturn's doing this thing, so
I just can't help but be shitty right now. You can.
like, yeah, you can, like,
Yeah, you can. I can't help but be lazy right now. You can.
like I'm all about that, like, and I think it's super cool, and I think it's a tool,
Yeah.
but it's this, like, what we talked about, that, like, toxic spirituality.
Yeah.
And, like,
If-
just like you can be a piece of shit who's super religious, you can be a piece of shit who's, like,
Super spiritual.
super spiritual.
Yeah. And the thing is like, you can write, like, say you that is your belief and you 100% believe in that. So here's what you can do. You can say, like, I'm this way right now because the stars are aligned like this. Well, then you can notice it, identify it, and fucking make a change. Decide that you control your life, not something. There's a certain religion that, like, says that, like, you are a god. So, because you control your life, you control your reality. And I think no matter what your faith is based in, you should believe in that. Because if you believe that these things control you, then you're still being controlled always.
Yeah, because I mean that's consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And taking
you-
responsibility.
yeah, you
Right.
are conscious. You're a conscious being, and if you, like, live your life by saying, like, oh, well, it's, like, a matter of chance, like, I think
And it's
that-
everyone else's fault.
Yeah,
And it's
and then-
everything.
Oh, they can't catch a break.
yeah, like,
That-
no, you fucking can catch a break if you quit being a little bitch.
I think you also attract that when you do have that mentality.
Yeah, Joe Rogan said it best when he was just like, "Can't catch a break, motherfuckers. I can't be around you. I gotta get away from you." And when I was talking about me saying, like, I can't believe this is happening to me, like, I'm a good person, this and that, I was the can't catch a break motherfucker, and I've tried not to be that for a very long time. Now I even for the past long time, I would take responsibility for my drinking and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I fucking drink a lot. It's a problem. I just wasn't making changes. But I don't know why that popped in my head as something I wanted to say on this particular podcast, because, well, I think it's great that people have their faith and their other thing, but have belief in yourself and faith in yourself enough to not let things like that control you and control your mood. Like, your body, your mood, your soul is your own, and you don't have to be controlled by anything. You can fucking overcome whatever the fuck your faith is to be better and still be in that faith.
Which I think is, I mean, that's, like, yes, put that on a fucking poster, put that in the room and read that. But I think that's what scares people too, is, like, you knowing that you are responsible for yourself. You are in control
sucks,
of
right?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when, like, okay,
Fuck, it's my fault?
all these, here's a
I got
pattern
myself
in
here.
my life that keeps
It wasn't the
happening.
stars?
I don't know why this keeps happening to me. This is so terrible. Because you make shitty fucking decisions that you have the power of free will, free choice. You make the decision. So I think it's hard for people to accept them. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.